good evening. I'd like to call to order the regularly scheduled Planning Commission meeting of Wednesday, February 1, 2017. Roll call, please.
Leek.
Here.
Passanello.
Present.
J. Carroll.
Here.
M. Carroll.
Present.
Shannon.
Here.
Panthy.
Here.
Caudle.
Here.
Okay.
All right, if we could all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Moment of silence, please. All right, thank you. You may be seated. All right, first order of business is minutes approval. So if we could take a couple minutes here and look through. We have 2 months to approve: December 7th, 2016 and January 4th, 2017.
Chairman, I make a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of December 7th, 2016, and the regular meeting minutes of January 4th, 2017.
I will second the motion.
Okay.
I would like the motion to separate
I
the
was
2
gonna
minutes,
say-
please.
I would agree. Let's go ahead and approve 1 month, and then after we've taken a vote, that way we don't lump them together. So, Mr. Leek, if you would like to amend.
Chair, I amend my previous motion. I'd like to approve the regular meeting minutes of December 7th, 2016.
All right, do we have a second?
I will second.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, they are approved. All right, do we have a motion to approve the January 4th, 2017 minutes?
I make a motion to approve the January 4th minutes, but I would add one thing within the bulletin under Town Council. Kevin Lands has been appointed the new Chief of Police for Haymarket.
Yes. I'll second that one.
Okay. All right, any other discussion or comment? All right, all in favor of approving the January 4th minutes? Say aye. Aye. All opposed? All right, they pass. All right, moving on to public hearing. Final site plan number 2016-80-Sheets.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are you handing it over to me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Trying a little bit of a different format tonight. If you'll bear with us with our AV issues, I'll try to have this straightened up by next meeting. But tonight we're going to hear the public review for a redevelopment project at the corner of Washington and Highway 15. It is a site plan final for Haymarket Sheets Convenience Store. It is number 2014-0220. The other number is actually the store number, the 85, whatever it was. That's the actual store number. The applicants are Scott Peterson, who is the project director and engineer, and John Maxwell of Sheets. The address for this property is 15315 Washington Street, GPEN 72987010993. It is a little over 2¼ acres in size, and it is zoned I-1 Industrial District. The use classification is a convenience store with gas pumps. The owner is it Styco, Inc.? Thank you. It has had previous entitlements of ARB approval in December of 2015, and also they got their preliminary plan approval and an SUP in December of 2015. The site plan with the proposed conditions you have before you. There is a redevelopment project, like I said. They are going to place stormwater underground, the reconfiguration of the entrances. They did receive a waiver on landscaping, so you'll see a little less landscaping than you normally would. And the store will be moved back on the property from where it is now. See the E&S grade and plan on the board, the landscaping plan. They have approved signage through the ARB and the elevations. The timeline is, as I stated before, they did receive their certificate of appropriateness for the proposed redevelopment project in its entirety in 2015. The town did approve the special use permit, and there was also an associated text amendment to allow this use in the industrial district. There was the waiver of the perimeter parking lot landscaping on the site. It was prepared and stamped and submitted on January the 11th by Gordon Engineering. All the outside agencies have reviewed and approved or passed their comments to that have been addressed. The town engineer has forwarded her concurrence that it is approvable under all other town requirements. We will be having a bond set forth for stormwater, erosion, sediment control, and other site improvements that will be approved or reviewed for approval by Town Council next Monday. There are no other outstanding issues that the town planner is aware of, and therefore it is approvable in accordance with Virginia Code 15.2-2259. There's a slightly, as I understand it, slightly different process here than you may have seen before. Planning Commission is the approving body for site plans. The council approved bonds for site plans. That wasn't really separated out for you guys before. It kind of looked like everything was rolled into one. We want to be very clear that the Planning Commission is the approving body for the site plan itself, and the council will approve the bonds. With that in mind, with that being said, do you have further questions for staff at this point? Okay. The applicants are here to address any questions. I don't know if they had anything prepared, any kind of statement or anything, but the time is open.
My name is Jonelle Cameron with Walsh Colucci, so good evening. I am here on behalf of the applicant and Sheets. I think Susanna gave a very, very thorough presentation, so if you have any questions for Sheets on the site plan or timing, I have representatives from Sheets here as well as their engineer.
I do. I just have a question on the timing. What time frame are we looking at the start of the project?
They would like to have the project started in March, so next month is their goal deadline to have the project started, and they would like to have the project completed in its entirety by September. And it would be a phased approach, so the store would still remain open for portions of the time while they are going through the process and redoing the store.
Would the gas pumps be closed at any time?
The gas pumps will be closed at one point in time.
Okay, and do you know about how long that might take? Because we'll get a lot of questions from the community. Thank you.
John Maxwell with Sheets Engineering. The gas will be down for about a 10-week period.
10-week period?
That's starting in March when you first start.
Yeah, so in March, when we start the new store, it'll be behind the existing store, which will remain operational. It will be about 16 weeks, 15, 16 weeks, till the new store is open. And at that point, we will close the existing store today, and that will be about 3 weeks of demo to get that and the canopies that are there now out, and then 10 weeks or so to build the new.
So the gasoline itself,
Yeah.
this is very important because I ride a Harley Davidson and I fill up there all the time, along with hundreds of other motorcycles. But at what period will the gas pumps be down, approximately?
So the plan is not to take them all down to begin with, so we're actually going to phase that too, just to leave some gas operational as long as possible. So when we start that new store, there'll be the wing on the 15 side will be disrupted a little. We'll be taking a portion of those out of operation and leaving the front wing in operation until we go into that phase where we're ready to demo the store for the 3 weeks. So then there'll be that period of time where both wings will be out. But
that's great. I was concerned that for 4 months we weren't going to be able to use pumps there for gas, but that sounds like a good plan. Thank you.
So starting March 1, just to clarify, you will begin the progress on building the new store. Then 15 to 16 weeks, the old store will then go down. Be demoed. The new store will be in operational, and then so we're looking then around July would be the actual point that you shut down all of your gas. Then
actually, it kind of be like maybe 30 days later than what you just stated, just because of the first 3 weeks of work will be preparing the site and kind of getting the pad ready for start the footing. So we'll actually start the new store in beginning first week of April is the plan right now.
Big thing with us outside of Mr. Shannon's Harley is our officers use Sheets as their primary for our gas, and we have a agreement with you all. So I'm just thinking of how we're going to get our officers gas, and we're just having to send them out to a different gas station.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I can't send them to your location on Sudley. Otherwise, I'd do it for you.
So yeah, that looks like right now at some point in August, you're going to see the gas go out for a period of time.
Excellent.
Okay. Thank you.
Being somewhat new to the area, how long has that station been in its present configuration? And
That's a great question.
17 years?
At least 17 years.
About 17 years.
so the underground tanks that are there are approaching their lifespan, basically, right?
Well, the tanks typically have I think they're longer lifespan than that, but
I thought it was 20 years. I don't.
yeah, I mean, it just depends. You can see some.
There's no possibility or chance of any kind of leakage that's been happening, that's been tested already and checked?
Yeah, actually they did environmental, so And that will be also looked at when they pull those tanks out. They will be inspecting that as well, so.
Okay.
So you don't have any, of course, you don't have any answers on that yet, but the store will never be totally closed, from what I'm hearing. The store will be constantly, one or the other will be always open?
Yeah, the store.
Is
you'll either have
constantly.
one or- The store will always be open, one of the
Okay.
old one or the new one. It'll just be the gas that will be out.
Okay.
That's a good plan. That's a good plan. Because obviously you get a lot of business there, a lot. So. Thank you.
Are there any other questions for me? No? Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anybody else like to speak to the Sheets final site plan? All right, if there are no further questions, so we need to discuss and take a vote on this, correct?
That is correct. And I have these slides prepared if you want to flip back and forth rather than rattling all your papers. I just have like the main, I mean, as far as all of your, you have the full set of plans in front of you. If there's something you want to discuss, you know, I prepared these slides so that you could look at them rather than to go back and forth among the papers, if that's helpful. I mean, there may be some things on other pages, but these were the main pages. So
All right,
let me know if you need me to move anything.
Yes, ma'am. The only question I have, I mean, I've looked this over. The only question I have, explain to me about the waiver on the landscaping. What did they change? Because I remember a couple meetings back, the last time these folks were here, we talked about the landscaping. I mean, I understand it's on the corner of Washington Street and 15. There's only so much you can do, but what exactly was changed? Because I couldn't tell from the plans.
Well, I have some paperwork here in the file, so if you'll bear with me just a minute, let me take a look at it.
Matt, that's a good question, because too, and I'm sure in as far as the design, that the divergent diamond, that was all considered. Y'all had those plans, I
My
assume, and everything.
understanding is- Yeah, my understanding is something to do with the fact that they were losing some right-of-way, so we're losing some land. And so they were trying to make up with some of that loss by having a reduction on the perimeter landscaping requirements, and also for the visibility, because it is a corner lot. And this is just from my memory. I don't know. Marchant is here, and I bet he remembers better than I do because I wasn't here.
Another
There he
reason
is,
I-
hiding out back there.
Another reason I asked is because that stormwater management pond, especially along the back, which is not really in the sight line of that intersection.
Are we talking about the VDOT pond?
No, I'm talking about Sheets. but
Sheets has an underground storage facility.
I understand that, but in the back, along their back boundary, I'm just curious to where the changes were in the landscaping.
I can
Chairman,
turn
if I may, they
Yes, sir.
it had to do with existing overhead power lines along the shared boundary with McDonald's, that it did not make sense to put canopy and other trees under that easement, and the width was narrow as well. So they had also asked for a reduction in the width of the buffer, given the existing conditions that are out there today. So,
There's also a power easement on the other side, which runs. So this whole side is power easement as well.
All right, well, thank you. Any other questions? It's pretty straightforward.
Parking space are about the same as before?
It's actually more, they've got a lot more on that one side.
42 to 52, I think it said in one of the
Yeah.
papers.
It's going to be quite a bit of parking. I spent time, in fact, my wife and I were kind of educating each other on the plans, but I'm impressed with it. I have no issues at all.
Sorry. We can compare, what is there now, if you want to take a look at the aerial again with what's proposed, if that's helpful.
new building we have is designed so that, can you put that other site plan?
Sure.
There's more parking right around the building. Currently, we have some parking in the front, some on the side. With this building, the way we designed it, we also pick up some parking spaces on the side. There's a door back here too, so you can enter this door here, here, and here. So 3 places. So the perimeter parking is probably close, but we do pick up some spaces around the store.
Are there any of the other new sheets that exact design has been used?
If you go to Ballsford.
Ballsford, yeah, we were looking,
that's
okay,
very similar. The building
okay,
will be almost identical.
okay.
Could you state your name for the record up here at the microphone, if you don't mind? Thank you.
My name's Alan Stevens. I'm in the real estate department for Sheets.
Thank you.
I don't know if y'all seen that new one down there at Ballsford. Julie and I were
I
driving
have
by
not.
there the other day, and it's very functional. It's
Yeah, that site's a larger site. It has some features this doesn't have. It has a, it happens to have a drive-through.
Right.
And it has a car wash.
Yeah.
This lot, with the phasing, just didn't allow for a lot of that. So Sheets would really likes to keep their stores open. We did a project like this in Winchester, actually 2 of them, Stevens City and Winchester, where we kept the store open, built a new store behind it. Then for a short time, we were out of the gas business. It's a little hectic, but it works. And so people that, our customers still have a place to go while we're building the new store. This one just happens to be a little bit different than the Ballsford location because here we had 2, we call them wings. We have 2 canopies. We combine those into one. So it's you see that facing the main road, Washington, and then the store, we just pulled it back, kind of where the storm pond is now. And then they moved it, all the stormwater management system underground at the corner of the lot.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right, any other discussion? All right, do we have a motion to approve site plan number 2016-8-080-Sheets?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve site 2016-080-Sheets and forward to the town council.
All right, do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, let's do a roll call vote for this, please.
Okay. Mr. Leek?
Yes.
Ms. Passanello?
Yes.
Mr. Carroll?
Yes.
Ms. Carroll?
Yes.
Mr. Shannon?
Yes.
Mr. Panthy?
Yes.
Mr. Cottle?
Yes. All right,
Yes.
unanimous approval. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to citizens' time. Do we have any citizen that would like to address the Planning Commission? All right, seeing none, we will close citizens' time. Announcements. Does any commissioner have an announcement? All right, no announcements. Moving on. ARB and Town Council update. Mr. Lee?
Yes, sir. ARB has no update at this time. Town Council, I believe you were informed at our last meeting on the 4th, which I was absent for. Chief Lance has been appointed the Chief of Police of the town of Haymarket. We also, Roberto Gonzalez is our new interim town clerk, as well as our town treasurer. And the Divergent Diamond has opened up this past weekend, and so far, no accidents have happened. We do have an officer, Mr. Lance has an officer dedicated there most of the morning on Monday to ensure the flow, and just there were some folks going the wrong ways, but they were there just giving warnings and being educational and not enforcing, but more of an educational role during these first few weeks while folks are getting oriented with how it operates. That's our no further update.
All right, thank you. Any questions on that?
No, just if now that I know who the person is, that project officer there, if any questions do come up, please let me know, or I can actually pass you her name and number. She's great. She's very responsive, and she is the overall project officer for the entire Divergent Diamond there. So.
I know one. I'm sorry. Go ahead, sir.
Well, I wanted to ask if we have from VDOT or from whomever a date when not only will it be open, but it will be clear.
The latest on that is, and because that was a question I answered, they have until October that they have to have it completed, 2017. Chances are July. They, I mean, it's obviously the contract, the sooner they get through, the more bonus they get. So they're hoping July, depending on weather. Fortunately, even though they had to back up the opening of it, 3 weeks, the long-range forecast for February is warmer than average temps and wet. Not calling for a lot of snow or anything. So, and a lot of the stuff they can do in rain. They can't do it in snow. So I think they'll be moving forward. I really think that they have a good chance of completing it in July.
That would be great. I expected, perhaps wrongly, an easement of the traffic problems right out here. And
Yeah.
So we get those 2 lanes.
there is no way that that's going to happen for a while yet. So,
Yeah, and there's just nothing they can do out here. I mean, we're restricted.
yeah.
I got to tell you, and even though I work for VDOT, I'm obviously Loudoun County for the time being, but I wasn't even aware of this additional lane that they were throwing in.
Down here
On
by
McDonald's, yeah.
CVS.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
I saw him tearing that up, and I thought, well, it only makes sense. And then that's when I got involved in talking to the head construction engineer, Bill Cutler, and talked to him. And it's going to be nice when they do finish it. It's truly, still going to bottleneck right here at times, depending.
Yeah.
But there's nothing we can do out there. So, and I will certainly keep everyone updated. And Connor, especially with you, I mean, I'll send any updates to all of you, and I know you for the city council, so that if there's ever any questions I can help with, I just need to be asked. I can get the answers.
I mean, when it's finished, I've been on the one in Sevierville, Tennessee, and it moves a lot of traffic. It's very efficient, and it is going to alleviate some of the traffic out
Absolutely.
front. I mean, because really what bottlenecks it up now is you can't get through the intersection and people turning, so.
Do they put those 550 homes on the other side?
Yeah.
Well, we'll do what we can do. All right, moving on, new business. Do we have any new business?
When we were going to hear from Dogs Day,
They've been pushed back. Dogs Day.
Yes,
has been
they
pushed back, right?
actually had a number of comments to address with their preliminary plat submission, and they asked for another month to do that. So they'll be coming back to you in March.
And how about the Iceplex? Weren't they also coming back, or am I mistaken?
The Iceplex, well, the Iceplex and Winterham are undergoing some negotiations right now, and they have not made application, okay? We've got some drawings, and we're getting some advice from Martin, because it's a complicated process. So, yeah, I don't know if it'll be a month, or I really don't know.
okay.
And I know last month you had sent or the town had sent a letter to, a blight letter of some kind.
I'm sorry?
There was some sort of a blight letter sent.
Pain Lane.
Pain
Oh,
Lane.
the notice of violation.
Yes.
Yes.
Is there any
I was
update on
actually
that?
going to address some of that stuff in the town planner update, but I'll be happy to go ahead and just address that now. Yes, the notice of violation was sent back in December. They, on the last day before they could, the appeal window ended. I think it was on the 5th or 6th of January. We did actually receive an appeal application. As a matter of fact, Ms. Cameron, who presented, is the attorney representative. And our attorney, Mr. Krim, is advising us on all of that. They have the right to appeal our notice of violation. If that is heard by the BZA as scheduled, it would be heard on March the 9th. And a public hearing has to be advertised. There's some other legal things that we have to take care of between now and then. So we'll keep you apprised as to that outcome.
Do we have a BZA?
We do.
We do.
We have 3 active members, which is the minimum that we have to have. Matthew Gallagher is the chairman. Dottie Leonard is a member, and Eric Matthews is the vice chairman.
And the letter of violation, is that for the blight, or does that also include them being in?
Blight is not under the zoning administrator's, it's under the building official. The building official, I really don't know where he is with that at all, to be honest with you. What our notice of violation addressed was the zoning violations that are occurring on the property.
Industrial. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
My understanding, though, is that, and I feel like Ms. Cameron probably could have addressed this a little better, we are working with the attorneys to let them understand this is what we really need to see. They are making some attempts to find other locations for the businesses that are on there. We do see them over there cleaning things up. They were cleaning out Fred's building today. We saw them in there pulling things out of there. You know, the site looks better than it did. We also have had, I want to say, 4 or 5 people calling that are interested in purchasing the property and interested in doing things just in the last 3 or 4 weeks. So there is definitely some revived interest in redeveloping that property. I feel like hopefully sooner than later there will be some resolution over there.
Any ideas that were presented with the?
Well, when they're asking me what they can do over there, and I tell them what they can do, you know, we're seeing things like residential mixed use with commercial. We're seeing some office. We have had someone that's very interested in preserving the 3 or 4, actually, as many buildings over there as can be preserved, because they wanted to do some really interesting redevelopment with that. That it kind of would be, it'd be cool, to be honest. As a historic preservation person, I'd love to see all that if it can be preserved. I don't know how practical that is, but yeah, I gave everyone, the attorneys, that Ms. Cameron's contact information, and said, you know, go speak with her and see if you can.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll see. It'd be great to keep some of our local businesses here. There are some local businesses that have expressed some interest in what's going on over there, so rather than moving out of town.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's go to the old business, draft zoning ordinance update. Do we have an update?
We do. Todd Gordon with Berkeley Group is here. We have your paper copies, and Todd, do you want me just to pass those out?
Sure, if you don't mind. Thank you. Good evening. I'm Todd Gordon. I'm a planner with the Berkeley Group. I'm here filling in for Darren Coffey. Apologies for his absence. He's both supposed to be somewhere else and sick as a dog, and I'm not sure which way it worked out, but it worked out that I should come.
Thank you.
But I'm bringing to you a newly revised draft of the combined zoning and subdivision ordinance. If I understand correctly, this is the 3rd draft that has landed on your desk. You've received a draft from us. Previous revisions included some comments from the previously serving town manager and previously serving town planner. We have a new draft here that incorporates further comments from the current town planner, also our legal representation, and I understand some comments, but potentially not all comments from the current town manager. So your packet will include the text of the proposed zoning ordinance, the matrix, the chart of land uses allowed by right and by special use permit in each of the districts, followed by a few maps. The first map, the proposed zoning map. A second map which calls out a couple of areas where we're proposing zoning map changes. Consultant and staff collaborate on some proposed changes. Those changes are mainly along Washington Street and deal with the properties being moved into the transitional commercial and B2 business commercial districts, both to give them better flexibility and also to, in some cases, to better reflect what's already going on the property. You also have a further map that deals with potential permitted locations for adult uses. So I'll just say that the goal all along here has been to deliver a zoning ordinance and subdivision ordinance that is clearer, stronger, and legally defensible, which I think we're doing here. We've incorporated comments from various staff and representation we feel is getting us close to the finish line. No zoning ordinance is ever really done. We encourage people to think of their zoning ordinance as a moving document, rather than adopting one in 1974 and letting it sit until present, which is what most localities in Virginia have done. We encourage you to go along and update it as you go, which is to say that there may be features that you'd like to add to your zoning ordinance in the future, and you should certainly review it continually and look at those. We have made updates to this ordinance to bring it up to date, I'd say. We've eliminated some land use categories like boarding houses and dance halls that aren't necessarily in common usage or in the common vernacular anymore. We've also introduced land uses like microbreweries that are a current topic of conversation. So I welcome any discussion on this ordinance, understanding that we just handed it to you and you haven't read it yet.
A question.
I'm here to deliver it. I'm here to...
Just one quick one. On the last page of the map, the green adult use,
yes.
Exactly what would that be, the definition of adult use?
It's included in the text under entertainment, adult, and that includes bookshops, movie theaters, and dancing of the adult variety.
Is that required by law for us to have that?
It is the legal understanding that we work toward, and which we feel is legally mandated in Virginia, that yes, it is legally required that you authorize adult uses in some measure within the town. Our legal representation is of the opinion, and this is the opinion that most everyone is operating under, is that this is a First Amendment issue, and that to completely ban adult uses would open it up to potential lawsuit. And so we have limited adult uses and mapped them in an area of the town that we feel would minimize the adverse impacts of such a business should one ever be proposed.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Would you distinguish on, like on page 45, you have all the red that's underlined?
Yes.
And on 97, you have, I obviously that's voided if it's lined through.
That's right.
But what's the distinction with the underlined?
The text in red is new for this draft. Underlined is new words added, and struck through is words removed.
Okay, and just a little caution on 97, you have, before the black last paragraph, you struck through what made it a sentence. You have a fragment, so you might want to fix that. On 97, my eyes just picked up on it, that's all.
Sure.
It's just a
Thank you very
fragment.
much.
So.
So we heard from the town engineer who gave us quite a few pointers, especially in the site plan section, checklist of required documents and so on. Attorney's comments that ran throughout, but I think especially dealt with the change of moving the subdivision ordinance into this document rather than a separate document, and meeting the Virginia statutory requirements for that.
What about traffic access and circulation, adding that into the ordinance? What's your take?
What sort of features of traffic
Being able
access?
to, because technically right now, if I'm not mistaken, looking at the ordinance, there you can pretty much go in and just do a traffic access and they can circulate any which way they want, but being able to have control and minimize those areas.
Yeah, I believe, and we can check and make sure I believe correctly, that sort of traffic requirements are a requirement of site plans.
But what's your take on putting them in the ordinance?
Anything more specific than including traffic study and parameter in the site plan?
No.
It will require the review. Any site plan will require the review of the town engineer. And if it's dealing with a state route requires the input of the state. So my take is that those put people to the test as much as they need to be put to the test. If there are specific things that the town is interested in seeing, for example, introducing one-way streets or something of that type, you could potentially put it into the ordinance. But I think, for the most part, what you will see in the future is development or redevelopment projects of a size that the owner, developer, and engineer are going to have to think through those traffic things. And my take is that it's better to leave it to the engineer to look at the specifics rather than try to address it ahead of time, not knowing what the proposal is.
Thank you.
Happy we have a couple weeks to.
Yeah, at what point in time, Mr. Chair, do we need to provide comments, and to who?
So that would be at our work session, right?
We're doing the work session at the end of the month on Monday, joint session with the town council. So I would say at that point, we need to be ready to.
The 27th?
It's Monday.
It is the last Monday in the month, and
Monday
I'm
the
sorry, I don't have a calendar in front of me.
27th.
It's Monday the 27th
27th
at
does
5
sound
o'clock.
correct. That sounds correct.
5 o'clock? I had 3, so it's
It's
5
5 o'clock, yes, sir.
Got it. Thank you.
I do have a question on the B1 Town Center, which is right downtown, corner Jefferson and Washington Street. And looking through this before and going over the matrix, this is an area that you've changed what would be permitted in the middle of town from the previous one.
It's correct that transitional commercial would come a bit closer to the center of town. Now, I think it's our mistake that the labels on this map are not, there's no street names on there, but the main intersection is entirely within the B1. B1 zoning on all 4 quadrants. The next street to the east, I don't know the name of that street.
Madison.
Madison.
Madison Street.
Would have transitional commercial as one of its quadrants.
That's where the BB&T is located, there on the corner of Madison and Washington.
Right. But the actual downtown itself, right out here, the B1 Town Center, we're not going to be able to see any storage units or something along those lines, correct?
No, that's definitely oriented toward town center uses, and it's also covered by the historic overlay and the ARB's review. So the intent of that district and that overlay is definitely to protect the core crossroads and the town of Haymarket.
Okay, and I also noticed on this proposed zoning map near the end, they still are showing the old intersection out here that hasn't been updated.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we have mapping in order to update, but we can certainly, for the purposes of a zoning map, it doesn't need to be engineering specific, so I think we can certainly update that map.
All right. But I think it would be prudent to update it.
I thought that these were supposed to go all the way to Dottie's property. Didn't,
Well,
So this area,
I thought these guys were.
That's in the plan.
just outside of Sherwood Forest here, is transitional commercial. That's where the Doggy Day Out is, but these are residential homes here.
These guys, I thought should be.
That's interesting.
Those also went to the transitional commercial? Those 3 residential homes?
Yeah,
The Fairview Street?
that's what I'm, on Fayette there.
Right.
You got the Doggy Day Out. I understand that was transitional.
Transitional, then.
But then
Because they have
the land right up
sign.
to Gossam Manor is also transitional.
In the planned land use map, it shows it as that. So for they're able to go in and ask for a zoning change. This is proposed zoning map. So this looks like, with your planned zoning map, are you saying that we would go in and we would do these changes already? Yes. Okay. So they're saying go ahead and make these changes. I don't know, my thoughts on that would be mixed, because the reason why we have the planned land use map is if those were to come in, I personally think that we need to review our planned land use map. For that mere fact of that street, I don't really see transition commercial on that street.
Yeah, I don't.
I think that needs to be something that we review and be one of our comments coming back on the 27th, as well as bringing up when we're able to get it onto our agenda, but looking at the planned land use map to see what we're actually planning for the town and what our thoughts are for that.
Because if I read this right, Connor, where the homes are there, someone could come in and buy them out, and that could be commercial.
Correct. And
right down to Gotham Manor.
Right now, we have, I don't want to use the word control, but right now they would have to come in and ask for a zoning change, because right now I believe it's actually zoned R1. But in the actual planned land use map, it shows it as being transition commercial in the future. So that is something that we need to look at.
That's something I would comment. I would have big issue with that.
Yes.
I would like to point out that the transitional commercial district is probably the most flexible of the palette there, and that it includes as by right uses the full slate of residential as well.
Yeah.
So
This has been a tension that the board has felt as long as I've been on, the need to define these both and make them correlate so that one has a clear path. This and the planned land use map are congruent. I think that's what we're all hearing and saying, and we want clarity for buyers and clarity for people in the town and clarity for ourselves.
So one comment I think that would be able to go right now is pretty much saying that instead of changing those in a planned land use, or excuse me, in your proposed zoning map to making those parcels there, actually leaving them as the residential parcels that they actually are, and that we would just leave it on our planned land use, or excuse me, we would visit it out our planned land use map to see if we want to keep that as a TC district, or if we would actually want to change those and leave them in the planned land use map as residential as they stand today.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
See, right now, those 3 lots, the corner lot is on the market as a commercial lot.
Which one are you talking about?
That's a different one. We're talking about the ones near Dog Day Out versus AC
Okay.
Watts.
Right, but on this, it's showing as residential
Right.
districts. And we've already designated that on the plan use map
As
as transitional commercial. So and that's been a big issue for a long time here, because somebody comes in and wants to do it. Rather than have well thought out where things can go, and then somebody comes in and we evaluate, does it meet that?
Right.
Now what happens, people come in and we have to sit here and figure out, what should we use that property for? And I can tell you, it's on the market right now, commercial. So
And that's already been approved.
it's already
Commercial.
with the waiver.
Could we be clear and tell me again which property we're talking about that's already been changed, if you don't mind?
The corner of St. Paul's Lane and 55.
And 55.
And here's what somebody asked me that, and when we researched it, we were not able to find a meeting at which that actually happened. We found something in the minutes about it was supposed to happen the following month, but that month was canceled. And then we kept going forward. We couldn't find where they actually had a public hearing to actually make that change.
Dottie's property actually had made the change, and these other properties were supposed to make the change with.
But you remember having public hearings and all that stuff?
What it was further back in the date, it was in the planned land use map. It was never actually zoned that. We put it in the planned land use map that it can be zoned commercial. That way, if the owner wanted to come to the town and make that change, they would be able to. The foresight that the town had was that whole front Washington Street area would be a B1 at some point. but we were not going to go ahead and zone it that way. If the landowner wanted to come to the town and ask the town and say, this is what I propose, we would then view it at that time. So that's why it shows in light yellow at this time, showing that it is residential because it is zoned residential.
Right.
But if you view our planned land use map, it shows it to be I believe it's B1 or TC. I would have to read.
It is showing on the land use map as transitional commercial. I do remember that.
I guess,
The same as it is across the street.
I guess the confusion comes in, I'm somebody buying that piece of property, I'm going to do my due diligence, but it's being publicly advertised as commercial.
Well, that's
Well,
the same thing
understanding-
that the Dog's Day Out had. It was residential piece of
Right.
property with the plain land use map of TC. So what they did was they put a contingency in saying, well, we're going to go to the town, and if we're able to get it changed, we will then purchase the property from you.
Right.
So you could advertise it as a commercial or a plain land use map as commercial, and then that owner would have to come here and just show us their site plan, show us what their thoughts are for the property, and go through the proper procedures.
Well, there are some low-density commercial type uses that are allowed in the R1 district, such as schools, churches aren't really commercial, but it is a public use, as well as medical office, dental office. Those types of professional office uses are allowed in your R1 district. So technically, that is a commercial use that they could go ahead and develop with the site plan and those sorts of things. Because I've had these conversations with the realtors, so there are some very low density type commercial uses that are presently allowed. It's not full-blown retail commercial, but there's some.
I understand that, but this is just my personal opinion. Somebody could conceivably come in, write a contract, sink a lot of money in a piece of property, and at the end of the day, walk away having lost thousands and thousands of dollars speculating that we're going to approve something. And to me, if we're going to do this now, why not do it in full force rather than just piecemeal it? Because if we piecemeal it, we're right back where we were before.
So do you want to change the zoning for that landowner, or do you want that landowner to come to us? Because the way I look at it is that we are then changing his zoning. Now, he would be grandfathered in as it's a residential, but we're then going in and we're changing somebody's actual zoning in there.
Right.
I see it as the landowner coming to us and asking, this is what we want with our property. May we do this? This is our site plan. These are the steps we're following.
I remember, correct me, I could be wrong, Mr. Watts being here and us discussing this extensively, wanting transitional commercial, not business commercial, very specifically because we wanted to protect the rest of Green Hill Crossing that was adjacent to it. And that I remember Mr. Watts being very pleased with our discussion on the transitional commercial. And I thought no, he did not, you're right, Connor, he did not file specifically, I don't think, for a zoning change.
So it shows it in the plain land
Right.
use map.
So that maybe, and we talked about facilitating and helping him over some of those steps, because they're not a step that a citizen necessarily understands what next steps to take. And maybe we dropped the ball. We didn't facilitate those next steps to get that done. I'm not sure.
Did we have a joint meeting where it was
Approved.
Yes, I
Yes.
think we did where it was passed.
And what we did was we changed
For a
it.
rezoning for that property? was
Not a
passed?
rezoning, just changing the
Changing
plain
land
land
use.
use map.
And it is not uncommon to, both of you all are, I think we're just going to have this conversation in public, because we could go either way. I mean, staff is sort of here to kind of advise and assist. It's done both ways. Sometimes you want some places prefer to have their land use map and their zoning map completely coordinated. Some places like to address these things at a future time and have the allowance in the land use map so that the land use map doesn't have to be amended before they ask for their rezoning. I mean, it could be done either way.
Right. My problem with it is it's currently on the market as commercial. So if let's say, for example, it goes through, the owner comes in, it gets changed to transition commercial. Now you have transition commercial, 2 residential properties sandwiched. To me, I think it'd be prudent to staff to reach out to him and say, this is what we're getting ready to potentially do. do the necessary paperwork so it's not he said, she said, it's all buttoned down legally. And my recommendation to the council, to the planning commission, if we're going to do this and do transitional commercial, why not go the whole way and be done with it? Because I remember on multiple occasions that gentleman coming in wanting that very thing, because he's waited for years to put it on the market, because it's always been a bone of contention from St. Paul's, because right across the street you have transitional commercial all the way up to the church, basically up to the town's park. You've got right across the street, you've got the vacant lot that's already zoned that. You've got the veterinary clinic. So to me, it doesn't make any sense. If you have basically you've got B2 commercial all the way up to a certain part, then you go town center, B1, then you come into transitional commercial, and then on one side of the street is transitional commercial. The other side is mixed use. It just doesn't seem well thought out to me. And, you know, from a landowner's perspective, I think we need to find out exactly what the gentleman wants. And I remember specifically him wanting all three of those lots changed to commercial.
He could only ask, though, for his own.
Yeah.
Right.
If I could offer one other perspective, the lots are not huge. Right now, let's just say the owner of the middle lot came in and wanted to rezone to commercial and you granted it. They would be subject to site plan requirements that buffer along the two adjacent sides for residential as well as the rear as residential, because you have to buffer against your other zoning, which would constrain him very tightly, or her, whoever does this, very tightly on the lot. If the other two lots then went to commercial, they wouldn't necessarily have the same constraints. And it might not be seen as something that's very fair for the first person who dipped his toe in the water, if you know what I'm saying. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because site planning is going to require a wide buffer against residentially zoned properties.
So, as far as commercial properties, if this were changed, would it increase their tax base, their real estate?
I can't answer anything.
Taxes.
I have no idea. I really don't know how that's done, to be honest.
That's worth asking the assessor about. Common practice is to assess the property based on its actual use rather than its zoned use.
With the one exception being, I think I have talked to them about residential subdivision. If the property is subdivided into 60 lots, it's going to be assessed differently than if it's a 60-acre parcel. I think I have had that conversation, but as far as the whole commercial use, I don't have a clue.
We have had a constant tension between understanding the proposed zoning map and the proposed land use map. And I would like to see them congruent myself, rather than letting them be determined at some future. And I think from the point of view of a model for townspeople to see and clearly understand, if they're congruent, then there isn't this problem of explaining why there is a discord.
I agree with you, and again, I'm the newest member here, and we've only been here since April, been here a little less than a year. But how hard would it be on the proposed zoning to put the street names on here?
That's not hard at all.
And I kind of go back to, again, the question I have. If you look on Fayette, do you know where Fayette is there?
I can show you.
This is Fayette right here. And again, because I'm a homeowner down in Sherwood Forest down there, it shows all four of those parcels as transitional commercial. Now, we just approved the doggy day out on that first. With the others, if this is transitional commercial, that means those homeowners could sell that land to a commercial business. Maybe I need to address that in a different way, but I know that's something I would have big issues with, because that road, one of the things we looked at for Doggy Day Out was traffic. And so those 3 parcels there, I would definitely, like to see residential, keep them residential, because that road cannot handle more commercial business.
Right.
It just can't without road improvement, which would require right-of-way acquisition, which is a big project, to include utility relocation and everything else. So, again, I have the personal interest of living there in Sherwood Forest. Those last 3 parcels, I would be adamantly opposed to anything other than residential.
I think the last 3 and the 2 on the right-hand side, though, as well.
Thank you, Connor. Absolutely on the right-hand side, because that's 3 homes down there as well, and a lot of land.
There's a lot of.
But that's nothing else commercial on that road. That would be my vote.
I would agree with that, and now's the time
To do that.
to tighten this up.
Susanna, when you went,
Yes.
you said you went back through minutes
I was trying to find what the resolution was for the transitional commercial question or the B1 town
Were-
center question.
Were you
on-
looking at the planning commission minutes
Yeah.
for that? Because I think we had a joint meeting with the town council at their regular meeting, at which we made that motion.
The rezoning of-
Yes. And because I remember Mr. Watts,
How many years ago?
we're talking months. I
Maybe
think it was
last
last-
spring,
Yeah.
or last spring, early summer,
You don't remember that.
I don't
So
remember
maybe
it.
before April.
before April, then
Yeah, it
early.
It was before I rotated off the
Well-
town council, because I ran it from down there,
That's
and then I
right.
came and sat up here, and I rotated off at the end of June, so it was
About,
April, May timeframe.
March, April, May.
no,
I think it was
it's
June,
11,
actually.
I think it's August or July or August.
No, I don't think it was before that.
Because I was still on council,
Okay.
March or April.
yes.
And we're talking the lots that, I know, what is his name, Mr.
A.C. Watts.
A.C. Watts, Mr. Watts, because I've actually spoken with him several times about his property.
401 Washington Street.
Okay, so all of those lots that are, because I think there's 3 lots, one very skinny one, that's like a well lot.
There's 4 parcels there.
Yeah.
3 of them are actually owned by one person.
Yes.
Or one family, excuse me, which are those center lots. Then
Yes.
Mr. Watts owns the most right lot of
Okay,
them.
so we actually believe that they are supposed to be zoned town center or transitional commercial?
In the plain land
Transition.
use map.
Well, see, that's my question.
Transitional.
Transitional commercial, and I know they are in the land use map, I know that change was made, but what I just was hearing you say was they were rezoned.
I think they were rezoned. I think that.
Not just changed in the land use map, but also
I don't
rezoned.
know if we did both, Suzanne. I know we had that. See, that's part of my reason for getting these 2 congruent, because I think it even confuses us. And we're supposed to be more, somewhat knowledgeable about this. But I believe Mr. Watts left relieved that his was at least transitional commercial.
This is hard, okay. I don't know that, but I will very carefully go back through the record again. I do know that if they were rezoned, we would have had to have a public hearing, we would have had to have advertised in the
There was-
paper. Okay,
It was.
Those things happened
All right.
prior to that meeting.
okay, all right, I will look again. Thank you. I may just not have been looking far
Good
enough.
luck.
Well, we appreciate your
Check
help
the
on
town
this.
council meetings as opposed to just the PC meeting, because we did do this with the town
Joint. It was
council
joint.
It
present.
was a joint
Yeah.
session.
There were a couple of those
Would
meetings
have had to have been
last
2
year.
public hearings to rezone property. It's 2 that are required. And they have to be a period of time apart.
And we just need to check this, because I'm totally with Mrs. Carroll on this. To me, the plan use map should mirror the zoning.
I agree.
I disagree.
It can be both way, it can be either way. There are 2, I mean, I guess this is something that might need to be addressed in the work session, is just to see
Yeah.
how, the entire public body feels, the planning commission and the town council.
You're both doing real estate. Could you envision a realtor going to a person and saying, well, I think this will be residential, we can get away with a residential sign, if the town hasn't already said that this is, transitional business? You would never do that without double checking with the town and saying,
Well, I have
is it
given a
residential
zoning,
or
I've
is it-"
given a zoning confirmation on those parcels, and like I said,
You couldn't
I
find
told her it was
anything?
R1 because I wasn't able to find record that it wasn't.
Yeah.
But I will double check in the minutes. Again, if it's been rezoned, it just seems like it would have been more apparent. Let's just put it that way. But not a problem. I will check again, and I'll report back on it at the work session, obviously, and if not, beforehand. Yeah, we'll get to the bottom of it. I know the land use map was changed, that the land use map does reflect transitional commercial there. And like I said, you know, when I did the zoning confirmation letter, I'd called out the home businesses are allowed as a use by right. You know, the professional offices are allowed as a use by right. And that's what he said he wanted, was maybe, you know, like a doctor or an accountant or an artist or somebody that would live and work there. That's what he told me personally that he wanted. I had a lady come and wanted to put a music school there, which a school is a use by right too. So
I know that when he came, we were very specific about setbacks and easements.
yeah.
And what could actually go on that property with parking. And I remember specifically the council at the time didn't want a convenience store. There's a lot of things that we didn't want there. And in some respects, we tried not to discourage him, is not the right word, but to fully educate him on what we were thinking that could potentially go there. Because somebody talks about commercial real estate, especially somebody that's been in a town a long time, seeing a lot of transition from when, I mean, this guy's lived here, what, 60 plus years. So I just think from being a licensed realtor and knowing what that property tax assesses for, it tax assesses on residential. Because in the MRIS, you can pull up the tax rate as public record, and what it's selling for is considerably more. So there's just a lot of red flags from a real estate perspective, where something's being taxed by the county as a residential property, but it's being listed as commercial. So as a real estate agent, if I have a client that's interested in that, you know, there's a lot of options around here. Am I really going to go the extra mile and go to the planning commission? Most people are not going to do that. So we're actually hurting him if we don't determine what it is. Now, that's my opinion. I'm sure there's different opinions.
Connor, I was interested, you're opposed to the two maps being congruent, being the same. For what reason? I'm just trying to understand that.
Because it's a planned land use map. It's what we see as our vision for the town, almost going with that comprehensive plan. So this is the plan that we have for it. At some point, will those two catch up? I'm sure. But what I would, at this point, and I don't want to use the word control, but at this point where we were able, if those were already zoned and we went in and we changed those zoning, at that point, whatever is by right within that district, those folks can go ahead and put in. At this point, if they're able to come to us and say, hey, we're looking for a change, it is in the planned land use map showing that this is XYZ district and this fits in by right, are you all looking to make that change? So I think we need to really visit that planned land use map to see before we go ahead and start making these changes for folks.
Well,
I felt that there was tension with the ADDO in terms of the transitional commercial residential. It was residentially zoned, and we had neighbors who were residents who wanted it to maintain the residential zoning, and we wanted to grant them the transitional. And the tension we felt because there was lack of clarity, or there was the disconnect between the two documents, was one that we worked through with public hearings, and we worked through with honest comments and people coming before the board, and a lot of due diligence that probably could have been more clearly defined had we had the two mirror, in my thinking. We did work it through, and I think it'll work in the long run, but now we left hanging those three properties beside it. So that is not resolved either, and that would mean more issues in the future. And maybe they'll be fine. I'm not predicting.
No, I think we need to go to the planned land use map and on Fayette Street, changing those from on the planned land use from what they are right now, TC, to keep them as residential.
I agree with that.
Yeah, because I'm looking here on the proposed zoning changes, and it clearly shows, again, I have obviously the interest on Fayette. It shows them being changed. I guess they're residential now.
Pardon me, yes.
And so,
But
yeah,
if you-
that would,
If you take business, I mean, that road is so narrow to begin with. If
Yeah.
you stock businesses on either side of that, I mean, those people that live back in Sherwood Forest are going to have an extremely difficult time.
well, and again, us, Madhu and I living in Sherwood Forest, that's our, I mean, that was our concern on the Doggy Day Out, till they really did their due diligence and convinced us otherwise. Otherwise, I would have voted, I'd have been opposed to that. But additional commercial, and it's, that road's just not built. It's not, and with no, you know, the intersection here, nothing's going to happen at this intersection. They're going to put a light here. So that would be one I would be adamantly opposed to being commercial transition. You know, I would want that definitely.
Leave it as a residential.
Leave it as residential.
Right.
Yeah, that road cannot handle. It just couldn't. And I'm looking, that's the only subdivision I see in there that has that, the proposed change.
That's the only one on there.
Yeah, it's the only one. There's no others.
Right.
So,
No, I have it right here for you. January 4th, 2016, memo stated to Town of Haymarket Town Council, subject plan land use map amendment. In May 2015, the Town Council adopted the attached resolution directing the Planning Commission to consider an amendment to the planned land use map to the comprehensive plan to change the designation of 5 parcels frontage Washington Street, west of St. Paul's Drive, and east of Madison Street from their planned land use designation of residential to transition commercial.
This is when the land use map was updated, and so they are shown on the land use map as transitional commercial. That's different from a rezoning.
Correct. We did not rezone it. We did it as a planned land use map.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
In other
That's
words,
why-
it's-
that's why it reflects correctly
It
on
lays
here.
the groundwork for a rezoning. And, you know, the other thing to think about with rezonings, it's not really control, it's what's appropriate. When someone comes forward to rezone property, very often they will proffer out uses. They will proffer a general development plan that takes into account the character of the area that they want to develop, and other such things that make the rezoning itself very specific to the property. It's something to consider. The land use map does need to be in line with your zoning changes going forward. You know, and so, like I said, you can do it. You can have your zoning map updated to completely reflect your land use map, or you can think about having the future land use map sort of reflect what you're thinking about in the future, knowing that you'll have some guidance and some authority to allow those changes as they're appropriate, rather than just allowing all the uses that are appropriate, that are allowed in that district. I mean,
I think Suzanne is correct. The planned land use map is a function of the comprehensive plan, and it's not a strict legal map in the way that the zoning map is. The zoning map is absolutely the law. And so if you envision a change to a piece of property, for example, on Washington Street, there's sort of 2 ways to fly. You can either change the zoning map, which changes the zoning of the property, and they can now do commercial uses. Or you can change it on the comprehensive plan map, which signals to the world your intention to have something there, but gives you more control over the applicant coming to you with a plan and showing you exactly what they want to do. So on one hand, to have the 2 maps not be exactly the same gives you more control. To have the 2 maps be exactly the same, that is, go ahead and rezone these properties and hand the property owner new zoning, is the surer way to make that change happen. Because as you say, when it comes to real estate, there are other commercial property options around the region, and buyers would probably go for an already zoned parcel rather than come to you for a rezoning potentially. So,
Well, when you start putting contingencies and you start putting in financing contingencies, and Connor knows this to be true, I mean, that can get very drawn out.
Yeah. It is very common to option a property
Right.
while we pursue a rezoning.
I just think it would be wise for us to contact these people, have them come, and find out from these folks exactly what do you envision. I mean, it's their property. I'm not saying we change it, but we at least need to make these folks aware. Because if AC Watts property does sell, okay, and they come through the process and somebody does that, now you've got transitional commercial and you've got 2 residential lots stuck right in the middle of it on the front of the.
Correct, but at that time, those folks can come to us and also ask for a transition commercial rezoning, because it's in the planned land use map. They're allowed to do that if they want to, or if they want to stay the R1 that they are, they're able to do so. Or if someone wanted to go to AC, and in this instance, go to AC in the Rafferties and say, hey, I want to buy all 3, well, that's a little 4th lot there, parcel as well. They're able to go to all of them and say, hey, in the planned land use map, it shows that this is TC. I would like to purchase your property on the contingency I can make it changed, or they can just go in and purchase the property, and they can go about it their own way.
I know, but I guess what I'm saying, I'm a residential owner here, and next thing I know, I see a house being torn down and a business being built. And I'm looking on this side, and I've got a business, and I'm looking on this side, and I've got a business, and I've got a family. My first question I'm going to ask is, what in the world's going on? I think it would be wise to pull these folks in, or we can't extend an invitation, say, hey, we would like your input, it's your property. But I just think the more they mirror each other, it cuts down on confusion. I agree with Connor, I understand what you're saying, but I think it's especially right along Main Street.
I can talk to these folks. They've actually called me several times since I've been here to talk about what could go on their property. And so I have their contact information. I'll be happy to.
Did Mr. Watt do that?
Mr. Watts says, I went and visited Mr. Watts with his realtor, Ann York. And I did a historic assessment on the property because he asked me to, and it's part of the zoning,
So he's aware then that it's not
well,
presently.
again, it does allow some low-density commercial uses, so it's not incorrect to say it could be marketed commercial. It's just what type of commercial, And it isn't uncommon, folks, you drive through the countryside and see a piece of property marketed as a perfect spot for a shopping center or this or that. It's zoned A1.
Use 15 and 29, for example. You go down there, you have all the commercial signs that are saying zoned A1, but plain land use shows M1 or I1.
Right.
You have it all up and down 15 right now.
But I'll be happy to call them and talk to them and ask them. I mean, they could certainly come to the work session and have the conversation.
Extend a personal invitation from the Planning Commission to invite these folks to come in and get their input.
I will contact them with that information.
Perfect. And I just go back, what that property's worth as a residential property being taxed on its tax assessment and what is being advertised, it could sit there for generations. And I just want to make sure the gentleman knows that. Because I remember one of the big things, and I know I'm beating a dead horse, if you will, but one of the big things is, I remember him saying, I've talked to him personally, I'm not getting any younger, and this has been waiting forever.
Yes.
So I think we owe it to him as a longtime resident to just totally lay it out. So I will move on. I will defer to the other commissioners.
I agree with what you're saying, and I want to bring up one more point on Fayette. And I think, from what I heard, I think we're in agreement that those should be kept residential. The second house there, the elderly lady, her daughter Lisa, who Julie and I have come to know pretty well, once the mother, if something happens to her, they've been there 50 years or whatever it is, there's a good chance that Lisa, the daughter, is going to look to sell that property. And that's another concern I have. Again, another reason why I want to keep it residential. All three of those parcels plus the ones on the right. So that's, I'll just go on record as saying those I'm opposed to anything other than residential for those.
Can we all get agreements on that, and that can be the one change that he can bring to our...
Well, let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's go around the dais.
Well, how about a motion first?
Well, all right, do we have why don't you make the motion?
I will definitely make the motion that in the zoning map for the parcels on Fayette Street that are currently marked for proposed changes to transition commercial remain R2 residential district.
R1, I think.
R1.
It's R1.
I'm sorry, R1. There's one, let's see, the first parcel on the left we know is Doggy Day Out. But the next three, to include the ones across the street on the right, those two big parcels, I propose that they remain R1.
So that's 5 parcels.
So I've marked these on here. If I could just verify these are the ones you're talking about. I'll give it
I think we just need to finalize all of this and,
I don't think the road, the narrow road support.
So we have,
So that would be my motion.
All right, do we have a second?
I will second.
All right, let's do a roll call
Do
vote,
discussion
please.
real quick, just to clarify.
Sure.
Just for anybody that's listening, we're not changing anything. All this was a map that was given to us by our planner on what they were proposing, and what we are simply doing is giving him our input to change what he proposed to us and telling him for our next meeting. We're not really actually making any changes there. We're just giving him clear direction on what we want him to bring to our next meeting as a proposed map. I just want to make sure, in case anybody's listening at home, I want to make sure that we're all very clear.
That's a good point, thank you.
It is.
All right, let's go around, let's do a roll call vote, please.
okay, bear with me just a second because I'm going to have to copy some
So
things
the
over.
motion is to keep it R1,
5.
those 5 parcels.
We have a second.
And the second was Mr. Panthy, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And our roll call vote, we'll start with Ms. Passanello. For the motion, yes? or-
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Carroll,
Yes.
Ms. Carroll,
Yes.
Mr. Shannon,
Yes.
Mr. Panthy,
Yes.
Mr. Leek,
Yes.
and Mr. Cardle.
Yes.
Okay, that was a unanimous yes for the motion to amend the proposed zoning map. I'm just going to restate the proposed zoning map, which is just it's a fiction right now. It's not in effect, but it's a fiction. But to amend this proposed zoning map to show 5 parcels along Fayette Street that are adjacent to the Dog's Day Out Center on the west side and across from the Dog's Day Out on the east side, to show it back the way it is now, which is R1 residential, correct?
Yes, ma'am, that
Okay.
is correct.
Okay, so we'll make that change to the map, and we can also try to get in touch with the owners of the other properties that we discussed, and then we'll bring that map to you for your work session, and we can
All right.
finalize it some more.
Thank you.
I appreciate you stepping in tonight. I know it's not always easy pinch hitting, but thank you.
Thank you for having me.
All right, update, ma'am, on Sherwood Forest streetlights, please.
Right, and the question was, how would they go about changing the streetlights or adding additional streetlights to address a lighting problem there at the end of the road? Basically, what my information is that if they're installing streetlights that the town has already approved, they would literally just install the streetlights. And if it's Dominion Power that's agreed to do the installation, that's how it works. If they're installing different streetlights than the town has already approved, then they would need to be approved by the ARB. And that's the only approval I think we
Because
need. We
there are
don't need
no
like a site
streetlights
plan.
now. I misspoke last time. I was thinking there was one by your house. There's none.
Yes.
so.
Yeah, there's a slate of lights that have been approved by the ARB and are in their guidelines, which are online. If they're using one of those fixtures, one of those approved fixtures, then they can just have Dominion install them. There's no
At whose
further.
expense?
Oh, Lord,
It would be an expensive proposition, but it's a safety, so what price do you put on safety? So that would be my question. I don't believe the power company's just going to put them up.
They did
In
before.
in the site plan,
they did.
we would have to look in, but in the site plan, was there any lighting proposed in that site?
for Sherwood Forest.
Yes.
I would have to go back and check again, but I don't think there was lighting proposed at all for Sherwood Forest. I think it was just.
I don't think, the plans I saw did not have them.
Didn't have
and
a lighting
I just saw what
plan
VDOT got.
Right, I didn't see a lighting plan in the thing. I'd have to go back and double check that I had the correct one, but I didn't. That was one thing I looked at, was to see, have we already looked at this and has it already been, is the answer already there? And I didn't see anything.
Does Sherwood Forest have HOA?
Yes.
No, we did not.
How old is Sherwood Forest?
Because they may come and put the lights in.
I know that Dominion is putting in lights at the church. The St. John's Episcopal, is it? It's backwards in Warrenton. It's St. John's Catholic and St. James Episcopal, but here it's different. So I think it's St. John's Episcopal here. They are installing lights in the parking lot for them, and they're using the town lights. So.
And I've only seen, I've only seen the plan that was submitted to VDOT for the roads, and there were no street lights annotated on that. So I don't think, and I'm working actually with the permits in Prince William County, because as you probably know, the builder wants off a bond, but there's a lot of work he's got to do first. So I'm actually working with the permits to make sure that they do what's right. So I don't know who would pay for those lights.
I would make sure you would check with Dominion, because I know at Green Hill they have put in, and I've seen street lights where it was dark. They make money off the.
Yeah, I understand for the church it wasn't a big deal, and I don't know
Is
if
that
it's
something-
because
can
they
you
have
check?
Do you
With
have
Dominion
a
Power?
phone number I can contact?
the gentleman at the church, the priest, Father Sean Rousseau.
Dominion Power, you talking about?
Yeah,
no.
Dominion Power and.
Yeah, I don't have a number for. Holly probably does, to be honest with you. Holly probably does.
Just put them along White
Yeah, too.
with those new homes. They
Yeah, I
installed
wanna-
a couple in our neighborhood.
That'd be awesome if we could get that.
How about if I get Holly involved in this question?
Thank you.
I mean, I did initially, but I'll go back with more specifics.
Probably already
Anything
know.
we have to do from the HOA, we will do it. Whatever it takes. So.
Okay, let me ask you this question then, if that's okay. Which one of you should I call to give you this information? Because I'm not going to wait till the next meeting and bring it back then. I think.
He could let me know.
Okay, Mr. Panthy. Call Mr. Panthy. I just feel like to wait another month is, why would I do that if I can get the information
Yeah.
to you next week about Dominion Power's phone number and just then make the connection?
General information.
I want to say.
What will be.
There was a lady's name that Father Rousseau mentioned that he was working with Dominion Power, who had our lights, who had our specifications, and knew what the town would already approve. There's somebody there who does this. So I'll find out. I'm just going to call Father Rousseau and ask him, to be honest. But I'll ask Holly if there's something else I need to let you know about, too. She'll know.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, ma'am, town planner update. Do you have anything additional?
Well, good Lord, I hope not. I've talked an awful lot this meeting. It has been very busy in the office, but it's a good kind of busy. There's lots of stuff going on in the town. I'm sorry, we're going to have some busy meetings here this spring with reviews and people who are asking permission to do interesting things.
Anything off the top of your head that you think is?
Well, of course, QBE is imminent. I have not had a chance to finish their completeness review. I will be doing that after you all leave tonight, because today's my deadline. And I can't wait until Monday. I just legally can't, and I wouldn't anyway, because we've had it. It may come to you next month. It may not, because it depends on the completeness review. I'm hoping that, surely to goodness, in the next couple of months, you'll see a big thing going on at QBE. We already have Mr. Leek. You can stay here for this. It's okay. I'm just discussing it. Okay. Mr. Leek is going to be recusing himself from all deliberations and talk about that project, because he's the realtor. And so we already have his paperwork completed. The town attorney has already basically guided us on how that happens. So you'll be voting on the QBE project yourselves. I'm not even sure he's going to be at the meeting. I mean, he literally can't be involved, not even as an applicant. So it's complicated. And it's fine. I think you all, will handle it. There's certainly enough of you. So there's that, and it's huge. He wants to add a couple of stories. He's got a very interesting design. I think the ARB will definitely receive and deliberate over, and may have some further guidance, or they may like it the way it is. I don't have all of that information. It's just I literally got the application today, and he needs to bring the rest of it tomorrow. But so far, looks very interesting. Sean's a very energetic person, and so it'll be fun. I mean, I think, by and large, I think we all know that that's what's going to happen on the property. It's just how and when, and he needs some guidance on exactly making sure that we tie all the knots and get through the process. But it'll be fun. That's an exciting project. I'm just trying to think what else is imminent. Hard to say. I have a lot of, like signage and the small permits that go to ARB. There's 3 or 4 of those a month, and so that kind of thing is ongoing. The Haymarket Baptist Church has got some canopies that they're going to be replacing. As I'm saying, that stuff like that y'all really don't concern yourselves with, is things along those lines.
Anything back from the fairgrounds?
The fairgrounds are silent. I mean, it's radio silence. I haven't heard anything. I am drafting a letter to send to them to say, hey, folks, we're here, ready to, we understand you're doing stuff in Warrenton. I mean, I'm looking at stuff in Warrenton with the Lidl. So I'm understanding it is a use by right. They could hit ground tomorrow if they just submit something and go through the process. I'm not sure. I mean, I thought we would have heard from them by now. Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Chairman.
What about the paving at the Baptist Church? Where are we at with that? Because we gave approval for the paving.
I can speak on that as well.
Go ahead.
We'll start with the Baptist Church. Right now, it's not real great paving season, obviously. Right. So as soon as it starts to warm up, they will be bidding out to go with that. Same with Tobaccoology. Spoke with Brett over at Tobaccoology. And right now, he said he doesn't want to pave until it warms up, and then he'll bring a contractor in and get it paved up. What was the other we were talking about? Mr. Gravitt and the fairgrounds. I spoke with Mr. Gravitt the other day and asked him how it's looking with Lytle, and he said they're just working on some last-minute things, but that they should be coming to us soon.
Wonderful.
They are going to be, obviously, we all know that they're breaking down the large project and doing Lytle first, and going to be taking that piece of parcel, selling it to Lytle. Lytle will then come in, build their store, as well as do the streetscape up front, curb gutter, the whole 9 yards, to get you our walkways, and then he will proceed with the rest of his design after that.
Thank you for letting me know that, because I wasn't even. I'll still send the letter, because I'd love them to know that we are interested, and staff is waiting, and here's our process, and how can we be helpful. I was going to send them forms and all that good stuff. So because it's preliminary plat, preliminary plan is not a terribly complicated process at all. But the final plan, of course, is going to have to go out and be reviewed by a lot of folks outside our office, and it'll take the longer period of time. And I mean, it's February. We feel like we're going to have a very busy summer in Haymarket. Nobody asked me about the sidewalk and Fauquier Bank and Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, that's what
and their sign
I was
and all
about to
that.
ask that.
Were you? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so Chick-fil-A is moving their sign. I think VDOT is actually taking responsibility for the permitting, so they don't have to pay anything. It's a $50 fee, but whatever. They're just literally going to move their sign back about 5 feet, I think, out of the right-of-way. But the sidewalk's supposed to be put back. I think there's a question about some trees, which I'm not exactly
Are
sure
they
what's
extending
going on.
sidewalk up to here or no? Like, up to here?
VDOT's not going to add additional sidewalk. They're just going to put back what they tore up, is my
Oh, okay.
understanding.
They're
And
not adding it.
that sidewalk will then be put in when Lidl comes in and they do the whole streetscape for the front portion
Right.
of that development.
Yeah, right now I think VDOT's parking equipment and stuff there. Maybe they're waiting for them to get out of the way. Do you think that could be it? Because that's where they're parking. They're.
We had decorative grasses on that hill, down in that whole area, fairly nice. Thick decorative grasses as you went by CVS and as you went by, before Chick-fil-A even. I don't know if they'll put them back or if
I don't think
they've
they're addressing
removed some of that.
I don't think they're addressing the landscaping. Is what Holly told me, which I was really disappointed
Yes.
about because hello, landscaping. I mean, it's our town. We don't want it to look like you just.
Yeah.
And it was quite nice looking with the grasses. They were well maintained.
You're talking about with VDOT putting it back? I will tell you VDOT's stance on that. The big concern is anything that's put in, someone's got to maintain it. We, in Northern Virginia, they're in the process now. I have a lot of the beautification stuff, they call it, out at Gilbert's Corner, the traffic circles and other places all through Upperville. They've planted nice trees, shrubs, and everything else. I've explained to them from the maintenance perspective, my guys aren't landscapers. We'll go cut the stuff down to the ground. So they're in the process of trying to get a Northern Virginia-wide contract to take care of landscaping stuff. So that would be something with, I'm trying to think of her name, the project officer or something. I could probably ask her what they're planning on doing there.
Well, wasn't this landscaping that was put in by the individual projects? And I would think they continue to have to maintain it. It's just that they had invested in the landscaping materials.
Yeah, if it's
put them in.
If it's in the VDOT right-of-way, VDOT has the responsibility unless there's something in writing. A lot of places we have HOAs. They agreed to take care of landscaping and stuff because they want to keep it looking good, and that makes sense. So that may be the case along there. If down at the end with CVS or,
CVS and the bank.
Yeah, they may be willing to do, I don't know what.
Who was doing it last year?
In the past, I think they were maintaining it.
Yes, they were very much.
Yeah, it
CVS.
very looks, it's presentably very
Looks
nice.
good.
And, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
It was done well.
and it encouraged walking.
Sure,
Walking.
absolutely.
is
It's our
that
town, we want.
BB&T Bank, that property was on sale?
Wow, now there's an interesting project. I've gotten tons of calls on BB&T and all kinds of creative, kind of wonderful things. I feel like something will happen on BB&T pretty soon.
I spoke with the realtor there. It's listed at 1.5. They received an offer at 1.3, and they rejected the offer. I asked them what in depth they said they wanted to do with the property. He said in the submission of the contract, they didn't state who was going to be buying it, just the entity was going to purchase the property.
Yeah, again, it's kind of like the property across the street. It is one of the calls I get weekly. I'm interested in the BB&T, what can go there. Everything from a daycare, which I didn't necessarily think that was a great use, but, daycare is needed, so I encourage them to look in the town. I don't know what else to say. But again, some of the businesses here are looking to expand, and they look at, I don't feel at length that I can tell you which businesses, to be honest with you, because it's still speculative. But there are businesses in the town that are actively looking for other parcels because they feel like they're outgrowing the space that they're in right now. And they're interested in staying in the town. They're interested in making the town beautiful. They're asking what kinds of things can be done with the building. Could it be expanded? Could we add a second or maybe even a third floor? What's that process? Could we go out the back? How much room do we have before we had a setback? So I'm getting those kinds of questions. That's why I feel like people are interested in the property, and I hope I'm not turning them away.
Yeah, I asked also, I was like, well, what if another bank goes in there? Because obviously we get a bank stock tax off that. But unfortunately, they're going to put in the provision that if another bank comes in, that's going to probably be up in the $2.5 million range just because of the infrastructure that's already in there, as well as they would now have another piece of competition within their local branches. So.
Well, they should have stayed.
I agree. Well, it was interesting. So, sidetrack real quick, not kind of off topic. I was looking on their website, and BB&T, I guess they grew way too fast or built too many buildings. They're almost selling 15 properties in the state of Virginia.
Wow.
And then within the 15 states that they're in, there's anywhere from range from about 6 to 7 to 12 to 13 in other states that they're also selling. So they obviously just built way too many or bought too many something. BB&T is a great bank. I don't want to be talking bad about them.
Well, they are. I mean,
I bank with them.
my kids have BB&T student accounts that they're outgrowing now. They're all, since they've graduated from college, they're going, oh, Mom, I got a monthly fee now. I'm like, well, grow up. But yeah, they always have pretty banks. They're one of the banks that I've noticed, throughout the state tend to pay good attention to where they put their drive-through, and they build a nice building. And
All right, well, I'm sorry, I just had one other issue. I wanted to go ahead and go on record. We're talking about the retention ponds. I got the answer to that. The SWAM, the stormwater management, besides sheets, is going to be fenced. It's going to be a wet pond, so there will probably be water in there most of the time. But it will be fenced. I don't know. I've got the question to them, what size, what type of fence. Normally, VDOT puts up chain link fence. They've done some black ones, black fences. I don't know.
can we plant things on it?
Inside the swim, no.
No, I mean, can we plant things on the fence like vines?
That's a question that we can ask. On the fence itself, no, because you have to be able to see through it.
Fiddly-dee.
That's
What about landscaping on the?
landscaping. I don't know. I'll ask. Chris is her name, Christina. Chris. I can ask her that question. There's also going to be a pond on the other side of 66. That's also a wet pond, and it will not be fenced.
Not very deep then.
So, no, it's going to be a wet pond, too. Well, I'm sorry. That side is going to be a wet, dry. It'll be dry most of the time. So, I guess most of the drainage from the divergent diamond, a lot of it's going to be going to the the pond side
It
sheets.
could be a really nice feature. I feel like if we could work with them, if we could get, hey, hello, Eagle Scout projects, I mean, we have folks come in here all the time say, what can we do nice for your town?
Some low shrubbery would be nice.
Even along
Low
15
shrubbery.
there,
Yeah.
along there. But I guess the first question they're going to say is, who's going to maintain it? So would that be the town?
Well, I think it's a conversation we should be having. It
Let me
is.
get an answer first as to whether some landscaping, because they're going to want to know what type, how close
Give
to
her
the
my
fence
contact
or whatever.
information. I'll be happy to talk with her about what, we'd
You know
love.
Christina?
I don't know Christina, but do you have my contact information? If not, I'll give you my card before you
Yeah,
leave.
let me get your card and
And give it to her and let
Yeah.
her, we'll just have a conversation about it.
Yes,
Because,
that'd be the
like I
best.
said, we had at the town council meeting, was it the town council meeting, that this senior class, I think, of a high school not too far from here is looking for something to do every year as they graduate as a gift to the town. I think this year they're going to be working in the park to do some cleanup and some maintenance and stuff.
That's awesome.
But next year, do you know more about this, Connor? Can you speak to this?
Yes. Mr. Andrew, I apologize, I don't remember his last name, with the student council, senior student council, or senior student president, excuse me, of his class, and he and another member came in and spoke to the ARB. They wanted to beautify Old Fred, but we informed them that it was not owned by the town, that we owned this parcel here and the hair over, but that we would get back with them with a task list on what we could do together within reason, and how we could help with pretty much the Harrow property with, Haymarket Community Park and the low-hanging fruit that stands there and what we could knock out as a team together.
That's what we're going to do on Earth Day, is that not so? Like April
That was the game plan,
19th
yes.
or something like that
Yes.
on Earth Day? It'll be
At
like a-
Battlefield High School?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Oh,
yes,
okay,
that was
good.
it.
That's awesome.
But they want to do this as a yearly project. Every senior year, they want to come do something fun. I mean, every senior class to get, and I thought, wow. But like I said, they're not the only folk. The Eagle Scouts are always looking for something to do.
That's neat.
So we have Denise is the volunteer coordinator, Denise Andrews. She's got a slate of several hundred folk that try to help out the town, obviously at Haymarket Days and other fundraisers and stuff like that. So we've got a wealth of people that want to make the town better and with their hands and eyes and ears and however. So I wouldn't shy away from a project because we need to make sure that a landscaping project that needs to be maintained, I'm going to bet we could find some folk that would gladly do that 2 Saturdays a month. You know what I'm saying? I bet we could. But we need to put those heads together. We need to.
Sure.
So I'll get Denise involved with the volunteer help once I know what kind of, what are the realities? What is feasible?
That's good.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
I have a second.
I will second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Appreciate all of you taking your time. Thank you.
Thanks for coming out tonight.
My daughter brought it. What is this?
Get used to them. You're going to get a bunch more of those this year.
And I will.
You turn it over, you hang it on the wall and let it draw all over.
That's right.
Ooh,
There you go.
See,